Welcome back to episode 30 of the 20 Pages Book Club. On today's episode, we have a lot to cover, starting off with a quick weekend recap as the boys were together for the weekend. We then finish up Babel, chapters 24 through the epilogue, giving our final thoughts and scores as well after we conclude the book. Then we will bring back one of our longest running competitions, the snake draft, as we draft away on some interesting categories from this book. And then we will present our next book. I'm sure you guys, if you listened to the last episode, you probably already know. But yeah, we'll present the next book and previewing what's to come. So looking forward to another great episode. Let's go. All right. Welcome back. Episode 30. 30. Can't believe we had this many episodes. Next up is 50. Yeah, so we were all in the city together this past weekend. So why don't we recap? We had a lot to discuss. Uh, two members on the IR.
Do we want to do a group recap? Or just
Let's do a group. This is probably a group one would be the best.
all right. Who's the best storyteller?
Looks like
Not
you're
me.
Oh,
looks like
okay.
you're nominating yourself.
Braze, what's up?
All right. It all started with a wonderful idea. No, Kevin
Long time ago.
and Jared joined us at our apartment this weekend. The plan was to go out Saturday night and enjoy the fights, but before that, we watched Christian compete in his first jiu-jitsu competition, as you can see on the scar on the top of his nose. It was a battle. So he actually took home a bronze medal, so let's all clap it up for Christian
Let's go.
competing in the white belt division. It was very impressive. We love to see him compete out there. Um, some tough battles, some injuries were had, specifically his ankle. Christian, how is it feeling?
It's seen better days, but it's not broken, so
It's prognosis
that's a
is
positive.
the sprain.
I think so. They don't really tell you. It's not broken. I have to go see the ortho. So um I'm gonna have to take like this week off, I think. But then I'll be back at it. Um didn't do as great as I wanted to, but it kind of just makes me want to go out and compete again and get better. Um it's different than like I don't know, it's nerve-wracking stepping on the mat. So in reflecting on the experience, like I'll uh I'll give myself that as I put myself out there, but didn't perform how I wanted to, and just hope to keep competing and get better in the future and keep myself healthy.
I don't want to.
Shout out to the boys for coming out and supporting. I had a lot of support there. If we were handing out gold medals on support on strength of corner, I would have taken home gold.
Fan favorite.
Oh yeah, I don't want to. I'm not going to use any names, but maybe I'll just use the last name. At least you were in Yabara.
Yeah. Shout out Yubara for being an absolute tomato can. So at least I could have one win.
Also,
Watching.
I forgot who the gold medalist was, but buy stock now. Whoever that kid was, I forgot his name.
Check out the UFB
Uh,
rank 6 years.
I know his
Beacom.
name.
Thomas.
Thomas Beacom.
Yeah, buy stock.
Thomas, in quote, the train engine beacon.
That guy was a dog.
I think he went like 7-0.
Yeah, he won three gold medals.
He just dog walked everyone he faced. So congrats to him. But we have a bronze medalist, so we're excited for that. From there, we went home, back to our apartment, me and Christian's apartment, and Kevin did us the honor of making us dinner with the help of his sous chef, Jared. Sweet potatoes, asparagus, chicken. What am I missing? Rice. It was a good injury. Not a good injury. It was good food. The injury was not good. Kevin also sustained an injury. He cut his thumb with the biggest knife we own. Was an accident.
Wasn't on purpose.
Wasn't too serious, but it did take him out for the rest of the night. Kevin, can you walk us through you cutting your hand?
Yeah, I mean, just lost focus, took my eyes off the prize, blade through the finger, didn't know what was going on, tossed the sweet potatoes in the tray. Sweet potatoes seemed to have been seasoned with heavy cayenne or grenadine syrup. Looked down, looked at my finger, blood all over the sweet potatoes in the tray.
Still ate them.
I didn't get a good look at my thumb, was applying pressure and stuff, found out later it was sliced straight through, so there was no flap of skin, which means that flap of skin was in the sweet potatoes, so good thing we threw those out. But had to had to call it quits on the night. Didn't wanna make my blood thinner and leak more blood out of my hand. Had pressure on it for 4 or 5 hours afterwards, and every time I took off the pressure, it was still spewing blood. So, had to go back, headed home, went to the ER. They were sprayed it with some saline, and I saw God. They couldn't stitch it because there was nothing to stitch, put glue in it. Didn't actually fill it all the way up with glue, so it's still kind of bleeding every time I, like, squeeze it, but, uh, yeah, now we're here.
All right.
I'm alive. I was thinking about
Are you
during
are you gonna get back to the chalkboard with the knife skills? Do the knife
Yeah.
skills maybe need some work?
I almost sent you guys a picture of my dinner tonight. I was gonna say I'm back. Conquered the knife again today.
Pretty fast, and I wasn't gonna say anything because you looked like you knew what you were doing. But then the next thing I look
Did
around,
not know what he was doing.
well, that knife was really sharp. I was
Yeah,
trying
and that,
to cut the chicken, and I was like, I'm definitely gonna cut myself.
yeah, I don't have that sharp. I have copper knives in Dubuque, Iowa. Those things don't really cut like that. So, um, yeah,
You guys
conquered the knife. Nice though.
have infused knives. You guys got
You got a good
match,
set of Costco knives.
match pair on that bitch.
Mid bleeding out. Not really bleeding out. They had me take out take the pressure off my thumb so they could look at it and it would just like fill up with blood right away. And in my head, in that moment, it was like 11 p.m. I was like, what if I started like taking my blood, putting it in vials and blood doping for my half marathon and marathon stuff? And then they covered it up, so I couldn't do that. But that went through my head at one point.
Does that
I
mean?
don't think that's how it works. I think you need like oxygen-rich blood from training up in the mountains for that.
I thought you just took blood out and then your body reproduced like made blood and then you just put your blood back in so you had extra blood.
No, I think it's like
Damn.
you inject yourself with like good oxygenated blood is how it works.
Okay, never mind. Good thing I didn't try it then.
All right.
Just blood out.
Just like to note that Skirka multiple times throughout the night asked why you went home because he simply would have just walked it off and still
Yeah.
gone out.
I told him I'm like he didn't understand what was happening and I told him I was leaving and I thought he was going to cry. He said, "Wait, why?" And then I explained to him again and then I said bye to Tyler and he goes, "Oh, I'll see ya." Yeah, it was kind of sad. I was like, "Oh, sorry, man."
All right. With that, we made it to our final part of the night. Kevin left Christian on a hobble. We made it out to the bars with our friend Nick and watched the UFC fights. I think we could describe that as interesting. I don't think we can get into specifics. Do you guys have any comments?
We had a good spot at the bar.
Good spot. Good spot. Christian got to sit down.
Yep. Just
Beers were flowing.
in describing Nick, just think of like everyone has the one friends that like you go out with and you find kind of funny, but you don't really want to associate with or have people in the bar know that you associate with that individual because some of the things that are spoken in public.
Sometimes you wish you could just say "whooshing" and not be seen with them.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good
exactly.
transition. All right, with that, I think that's a good transition to get us in the last section of summaries we got here. Kevin, you are leading us off. We left off on chapter 24.
Must have taken you all night to write these.
Yeah, I put a lot of effort into these ones. Just to where we left off last, because I forgot where we had left off until 10 minutes ago when I started writing these summaries. Rami's dead on the floor. Letty has shot him. Robin and Victoire
R.I.P.
get bags thrown over their head, and that's where we leave off. So, chapter 24. This chapter begins with Robin waking up in what seems like a jail cell. As Robin sits in his own jail cell, wow, that was good. He hears Kendrick Lamar's lyrics from the song "These Walls Come to Fruition." If your walls could talk, they tell you it's too late. Your destiny accept your fate. I'm not actually gonna read all that. And then the last line is Walls is telling me you, because I still think Robin's basically the walls were making him go crazy. Then Sterling Jones enters the room and tries to convince Robin that he is wrong for going against Babel and the Empire, but Robin is tired of fighting. Sterling gives up on this conversation and decides to pull out his 50 Shades of Grey dominatrix textbook and handcuffs Robin with a match pair that causes him pain that multiplies with every movement. Robin somehow becomes strong-willed in this portion of the story and resists moving. This causes Sterling to go deeper into his BDSM bag and grab these silver bars that made him feel like he was being exploded on his chest. The final my bad. The final tactic used was pretending to shoot Victoire in the head if Robin did not confess, but Robin refused to betray Hermes once again and heard Victoire scream, followed by a gunshot. So it was a weird
Um,
chapter.
Mr. Sterling Jones, like, his interrogation methods need some work. I think he literally pulled out all of his tricks in like maybe a 5-minute span, and he let Robin know that he could resist it and handle it. So he maybe needs to
Yeah,
reassess
yeah.
his work in the jail cell.
I don't know if the author was just trying to rush that part, but like he basically just tried everything in one chapter and was like,
Shit, it
There's
didn't
one
work.
thing. There's one thing we know about Robin from Professor Lovell. It's that Robin can take a beating, and he doesn't talk back or fight back. So I guess that stayed.
Yeah, maybe that's the point. Is he was kind of desensitized to physical pain like this early on in his childhood.
All right. With that, chapter 25. Robin wakes up to Griffin standing over him and sees a blown up door behind him. Griffin is here to save the day. Griffin breaks Robin out of his handcuffs as he explains that everyone was killed in the old library and he and Victoire were the only ones who survived. He explains that he had heard Victoire but presumed she was dead after the gunshot, but Griffin wanted to confirm that this had been true. They end up finding Victoire on the floor of her cell and break her out as well. From there, they start to descend the tower to get to the bottom. Once they reach the street, they start running from the tower but hear a voice yell at them from behind them. Sterling Jones was standing there, staring all three of them down, holding a gun. Griffin declares, "You cannot shoot all of us at once." From there, they inexplicably both fire shots at each other and both get hit at the same time. Griffin and Sterling are both down. They try to use a silver bar to save him, but it was not working. Victoire convinces him they have to leave. Then they begin to plot how they will bring down the tower. I didn't do that chapter much justice. The silver bar part, when Robin went through it here when he saw his brother laying dead on the ground or not dead but dying, and then he uses that silver bar that Griffin had to try to heal him, and it seems like it's doing something, and then it doesn't work, and then Victoire's like, "We gotta go."
So this is one part that I didn't understand about Robin's mentality, and I'm sure that we will dive into it as we progress on here in meeting 3. But he can't stand Griffin throughout the book, and he doesn't like his brother, and kind of how he immediately turns to violence in the face of this of colonialism and racism. And then as soon as Griffin dies, he's like a martyr to Robin, and he immediately assumes like his position on violence. I didn't really understand
I agree.
the on and off switch that went off. There was no character development
I
based
thought
on
I thought the character development was gonna be him rejecting his brother's philosophy and finding his own path.
I mean, we haven't gotten to it yet, but like my thought is once he sees it work, when they go to take over the tower, I feel like once he sees it work a little bit, because even in that chapter, it's like he's like, "Oh, I did not I did not expect to be in this position. Like, I didn't think this would work." And then once he sees that all like the threatening and violence is like working to get what he wants, then he's like, maybe Griffin was right. And then that was when I saw the character development.
I kind of agree with Kevin a little bit where I saw it was maybe a little bit rushed, but I definitely saw someone, what is it, Anthony was presenting a lot of the peaceful ideas wherein Griffin was always bringing up the more violent options, and I think he kind of realized that the violent ones were the only way to get them to listen or get them to respond, and I think that's where I saw a little bit of character development, but I do agree that it was a little bit kind of out of the blue and how fast it occurred, if that makes sense.
Where is Nelson Mandela when you need him?
I get what you guys are saying. It was sped up.
Yeah, it
But
was.
I don't know. Maybe our girl RF Kuang was trying to finish the book up here.
I also feel like this is like a big turning point for him because I feel like Robin starts going like
He feels
loses
he feels like he needs to make up for what Griffin stood for. I feel
I
like
have a thought.
and
Uh,
Rami.
you guys just talk about it speeding up. It's definitely speeding up right here. I feel like it slows down again though.
Yeah.
Like once they're in the tower.
when they get in the tower, I think because I mean, well, let's face it, the story ends in the tower, so
Yeah. It
Yes,
was
Guy
a
Joe?
weird pacing because you sped up and you're like you're reaching the end conflict and then you were slowing back down again towards the final resolution. And there's no letdown from that really, besides an epilogue.
Yeah. Right here, it's just the pace is extremely fast. It's like Rami dies, everybody dies. Then he's getting like beat, and then Griffin saves him, and then Griffin dies, and it's like all these deaths. And Letty had just turned on them. Like in these 3 chapters, it'd been pretty fast paced. And I feel like that was kind of showing. I think this is where Robin kind of like broke down, and he's like, I need to I need to carry on. I need to carry on Rami's legacy and Griffin's legacy.
gotta do this shit for Madden.
Oh my dude. All right. And then with that, the Letty interlude.
Sterling Jones, the hardest hitting scholar in the land.
Sterling Jones did have that bag in him.
It was kind of like a Western standoff between. That's kind of why I pictured it, like Griffin and they pulled at the same time and shot each other.
They also couldn't have picked a more white colonist name than Sterling Jones.
Is he a real person? I never looked it up. Probably is a real person.
Definitely has been in the past.
Yeah, there's definitely a Sterling Jones.
I don't know if he's famous. He's an actor.
From the 1800s. I'm thinking more from the 1800s.
I know that.
All right, and with that, we can finish off my chapter summaries. I need to get this over with. The Letty interlude didn't do this one too much justice either, but I didn't care for this that much either. We learned that Letty lived as a shadow of her brother and had a father that resented her, which we kind of knew. Letty told her brother that he was better off dead, and then he literally was found dead that night. Letty somehow makes it to Oxford, though. She wondered why the others were not grateful for the opportunities that had been given at Babel after Canton. Letty felt excluded from the group. She decided her friends were beyond saving and decided to save herself. Shot Rami.
Okay.
I think one thing that is interesting to me about Letty and Victoire is that they both view themselves as survivalists. They both view them, well, survivors, I should say. Like they both describe themselves as that. Do you say women?
Yeah, I mean, in this time, like, I think they looked at themselves as like the fact that they had to dress up to go in the stores and stuff. I mean, Victoire had like, she was literally like the worst possible combo for that time period.
For that time period.
Yeah, just making sure there was no pause there.
My bad.
Say that all fast.
Yeah, she was, for that time period, she was the worst possible combo.
Yes, I agree.
So, but
She had the hardest stuff working against her. Yes.
yeah, I don't know this chapter. Nah,
I mean, we all knew it. Like we just
Yeah.
kind of give some background on, I guess why Letty was so grateful for the for the
It was her dream.
Oxford because her brother threw her chance away, and she felt like you're given the opportunity, you must.
Who keeps messing with their mic over there? See,
Yeah,
just a
Might
constant
be
banging.
it might be me.
constant banging. It's
Yeah.
probably Christian.
All right. All right. Chapter 26. Just be more careful. All right.
Okay.
But it's not me.
Yeah, I
I think
hear
it's
you.
probably Jared. That's usually Jared when it comes from.
Damn.
It won't. It doesn't pick up in the recording.
I mean, I could hear it right now.
Well, I'm not touching it, so I don't know what you want me.
All right.
Praise a little bit that. Well, I can hear it right now.
Sound like Quagmire.
All right, chapter 26. Robin and Victor climbed on their hands.
I'm so confused on the Victory pronunciation because
Yeah, you guys.
you were saying
You said it like 7 different times.
I don't know. I still don't
I thought it
know.
was Victor.
I think
I
Kevin's
think
right.
you were saying.
I think Kevin's right.
I don't know what's
I thought you looked it up last meeting, Tyler, and you said
There's-
Victory.
Well,
So I started saying
also
Victory.
I think it's also when I looked it up, it's also a French word for victory, but I think the name is pronounced differently than this.
Hey, do you
the
think
word
that's
victory.
why?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think that's why she survives?
That's why.
Letty is like Letty is let down. Rami is
Dead.
Ramen noodles.
shot and dead.
Ramen noodles on the floor.
All right, Robin and Victor climbed on their hands and knees through a cramped tunnel. Finally, they stumbled into a dorm-like room, supposedly the hideout of Griffin. They took turns cleaning the dirt and blood from each other, a nice moment of friendship. With that concluded, they turned towards the letters through the drawers. In one spot, they found one addressed for Robin, but he couldn't gather the heart to read it. Then they bound a lamp infused with silver that indicated a beacon-like effect. In other words, an ability to signal the others, whoever they were. Victoire planned to use silver to make a call for arms. The message indicated that would occur tomorrow. Following morning, Victoire and Robin headed to the old library to assess the damage. They stood at a distance and spotted the dead bodies still sitting beneath the fallen stone. This irritated Robin. The time for revolution was ripe. Using an ear-deafening silver inscription, they were able to scare away the police at the front of the tower. Robin and Victoire rushed into the tower, taking center stage. While their voices trembled, they started to piece together a story that began to touch the students. Robin then challenged Playfair, saying that he was inciting war. Professor Kraft now turned towards Playfair, asking for answers. Professor Playfair immediately crumbled under the pressure, turning to racist rhetoric. Robin announced the grand plan, and they shut down the tower until London answered their pleas. Given this, the atmosphere in the tower changed, and everyone was hesitant to do anything despite Playfair's pleas. Robin added to this by throwing an explosive bar towards the door, where third years were heading. Professor Playfair had enough. He pulled out his gun and pointed it at Robin, who challenged him. Victoire was the first to pull the trigger and sent Playfair reeling in pain. Professor De Vries leaped towards the gun, but Chakravarti revealed himself as inside Hermes and wrestled it away from him. Robin moved to the next phase, announcing that everyone could leave if they didn't wish to participate. Nearly everyone did. The only white person that remained was Professor Kraft. Joining them would be Professor Chakravarti and 4 students of color. This started the next phase of their plan. They worked towards the distribution of their manifesto. In it, they declared their strike due to the unethical war on China and declared they wanted their demands met. The papers were scattered across Oxford, and soon they would reach London. Robin turned to Victoire, who announced she felt no regret towards shooting Playfair. Playfair gets put down like a little bitch in this chapter. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. This is my MVP, Professor Kraft. I would like to potentially nominate. I think played unexpected, at least in my eyes. I didn't see that one coming. Kind of played a bigger role than I anticipated.
Manifestos always work.
Yeah. It's a great lesson to take from the book.
Also an odd characterization of the author does weird things with characters, but Professor Playfair just immediately confirming their story of the war going on and like allowing everyone around them to know that they were actually telling the truth. I
Every,
just thought it was
everyone
it was
around them, everyone around them is a dumb racist idiot. That's kind of basically.
odd. Yeah, I guess.
He slipped up pretty fast there. It was like a four
Yeah.
sentence back and forth, and then all of a sudden he had doubted himself.
You would think a professor at Oxford would be able to defend himself a little more.
Yeah, Playfair got babied.
He did.
Yeah, this is really the turning point I was talking about too with Robin. Like he was holding people at gunpoint, like speaking. He was like having an out of body experience, like speaking with words, and then he'd be like, "Did I just say that? That
I'm the captain now.
I did not. I didn't expect that to sound that good." And everyone was listening, and he's like, "Why are people listening to me?" And then, yeah, then he realized,
Chalked the Vardy correctly
yeah,
last meeting. So look at us.
Yep. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
now it's just slow mo from here.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
We slow down again. Chapter 27. Hours passed and the group was stunned due to the lack of action taken by the local police. Given this, their focus shifted towards logistics, mostly food. There were some dry provisions that could last, but it became clear hygiene would become an issue. Just at the time of this discussion, a telegram from London came. It was short and mostly signaled that they didn't care. Another event served as a distraction. The following morning, Magdalen Tower fell, the second tallest building in Babel. How are we doing that? It fell due to erosion and structural damage. Playfair had been appointed to its upkeep, and with him in the hospital, it had fallen. Victoire and Robin took great pleasure in this. This inspired their next idea. Resonance, the center of all the silver bars in England. The professors immediately protested the moral implications. It would halt all service in the country, even emergency services. Robin compromised and promised to only remove a couple. The following day, the damage started to take shape. Sewage was no longer being moved along, the postal system stood still, and the city of Oxford lost its streetlights. Despite all of this, Parliament continued to silence them, refusing to acknowledge the events. On the sixth day, they got their answer. A militia had formed outside the building. Suddenly, they realized that the group was looking to light the building on fire. Robin looked to throw an explosive at them, but Victoire stopped him. The professors looked for a response. They came down with a silver bar in Sanskrit. It dispelled the mob. By nightfall, the protest was over. Despite this, they knew they had to prepare for a siege. With that, they began researching techniques on how to preserve rations and create more match pairs. Overnight, they received wonderful news. London was striking. Anthony appeared to be correct. The classes were revolting. Years of the financial gains going to the elite had driven the lower class to the brinks. With that, London sent a telegram with an offer. It would provide full amnesty to everyone, but Babel operations would continue. In addition, the army was on the way. The news brought some chills among the group, but Robin thought of the counterpoint. The British were terrified. Um, I guess the mob folded very fast. They showed up and then they were like, okay, we can't do anything, and just left.
I thought the resonance stuff was. I didn't realize it when we were reading originally that because Chakravarti was the one that showed Robin the resonance stuff in the beginning, just a little hint to that he was with Hermes and
Yep.
maybe that he would one day need it. So that was
This,
interesting.
that might have been R.F. Kuang's greatest work of foreshadowing in this
That was a
book.
good one.
She
Yeah.
actually she did not blow her load early in a sense.
It's a good
Tough
phrase.
to
She
do.
was
To
able
do. Tough not to do, I guess.
she was able to practice some stamina in the resonance regard.
Any other thoughts before I move there, actually?
No, no thoughts at all
Okay.
after
That was crazy.
Okay, chapter 28. They awoke in the morning to a surprise. Everyone had fallen asleep. In the meantime, a barricade of everyday materials had been created. Additionally, a man was standing out front, waiting to speak to Robin. The man was Abel Goodfellow, a man that had partaken in the protest earlier in the summer. With that, they invited the man and the fellow strikers within the walls. They began planning the barricades to slow the army down. Soon after, the redcoats arrived. Abel strode out from behind the barricade to greet them. He relayed the conversation to Robin. They were given a 48-hour ultimatum. However, over the next couple of days, laborers continued to arrive upon the walls. Their goal, create market failure. Victoire compared their protest to the 10 plagues, where the Lord subjected the Pharaoh to 10 deadly plagues. Upon the 10th, which resulted in the firstborn son's death, Moses finally released his people. Except there was a roadblock. The other professors had set up a defense force and were successfully patching up issues. Nonetheless, the resistance carried on. Robin demanded 2 things in his daily pamphlets. That was amnesty and the commitment not to pursue war with China. Victoire and Robin continued to debate ethics surrounding the 8th floor. Robin often sought to take down as many as possible. Victoire argued that you have to give the public time to sway their opinion. And the public roared in debate. The press was filled with debaters and radicals publishing their opinions. Robin and Victoire came across a stunning discovery in the ledgers. Westminster Bridge was due for repair. If not tended to, it would collapse in the next couple of days. Victoire again confronted Robin about the prospects. It was too much of an escalation. Robin argued that it was necessary, as Alfred or Michael Caine once said, some men just want to watch the world burn, just like Robin. The conversations broke the pair. They had reached a moral line. Robin intervened and said they would take it to a vote, and Robin narrowly won. Professor Chakravarti challenged the ethics, but Robin had gone full Griffin. With that, the professor was tossed out of the tower. Robin voiced in frustration, asking if anyone else wanted to file a complaint. They all walked away from the table besides Victoire.
I mean,
Abel Hello.
Unsung MVP.
interesting.
I laughed at his name just because I didn't realize the last name, but his name literally reflects his role in
Yeah.
the story.
I didn't realize it either.
Abel,
So.
an able good fellow.
I was just gonna say, basically, Robin and Victoire basically just filled in the roles of Griffin and Anthony, like
Yeah.
just directly. There was really no change between their stances, I guess, and ideology.
Filled in the role of many men in history, MLK and Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Who else?
Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy.
Yeah.
What? No. All right.
Yeah, this part was interesting. Seeing the back and forth between Robin and Victoire. It was like they like secretly hated each other, but then like didn't. Like they still loved each other, but they despised the decisions that were being made, and they would like want to spend time alone.
Yeah, both were
Like they
unhappy.
wouldn't want to talk, but they'd want to be like near each other because they were like scared. It was interesting.
Hand up. I thought they were gonna have sex here at the
And-
end.
What do you get? I thought we already clarified this man was gay.
Yeah.
Not gay. I think he was just not interested in general.
I mean, him
Yeah,
and
it
Rami
might
were
be
staring into
completely-
each other's eyes.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would like somebody to.
World's gonna end. You gotta just test the waters. I feel like.
My book's over on the shelf over there, so I can't read it. But if somebody could read once we get to it, the right before they're about to die, the one little excerpt. Wait, don't read it now, but once we get to the last chapter,
Oh yes, thoughts on
I don't
Rami?
know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
that part's real good. I want you to read that out loud, Tyler.
Okay.
Wait, I don't know what you're.
Someone give me the page when I get there.
Yeah,
Kevin,
like,
you may have to walk
like-
over there and be the one to find it. Chapter 29. The mood in the tower turned quickly after the initial excitement. I'm sorry, wow. All right. The mood in the tower turned quickly after the initial excitement had worn off. The group now spent most of the day isolated from each other. In this quietness, Robin and Victoire turned towards comforting each other in conversation. After a couple days, they discussed Letty. Victoire pondered if Letty always knew if the signs were there. Robin believed it, saying she wanted to kill Rami. The rejection had killed her. Victoire was more sympathetic, saying while she was wrong, she must have believed she had been betrayed by the group. The group now turned towards Ibrahim. He was writing an account on their time in the tower, looking to tell their story. Robin was apprehensive about it, but agreed he'd share his thoughts at some point. Meanwhile, the army was becoming more aggressive. While they didn't outright attack, soldiers were taking shots at those within inside the tower when they had the opportunity, narrowly missing those inside. Meanwhile, the battle outside had turned bloody. Abel and the protesters were engaged in awkward warfare with the troops, which was turning more and more violent as the days went by. Robin became more and more isolated. His thoughts turned towards the future, one he couldn't imagine without the others. Victoire tried to tell him there was a future for them, but he couldn't believe it. I don't. There. Yeah, I guess this is just a time passing chapter. I don't have many thoughts.
Conditions are worsening.
Yes.
I mean, the final few chapters have just been Robin wanting to destroy the whole world,
It was bad
and
watch.
Victoire wanting to lightly press the government and try to get out with their future still intact.
I mean, the guy's wanted to die since that bridge in China.
Yes, he smoked opium.
It's like getting.
Basically, drugs ruined his life. That's the moral of this story. He took, yeah. I mean, if he would have listened to Dare and not took drugs this one time, he'd still be alive.
You
I
are
guess
right.
everything spiraled downhill after he smoked dope.
Started smoking opium, killed his dad. Uh, took a tower hostage.
Our Kuang is literally just the Dare program.
Maybe drugs are the answer. Maybe he's just in severe withdrawal, and the only out he could see was to kill himself.
That's crazy.
Okay, that was pretty dark.
That was
I
good
mean, that's
analysis.
so dark.
Good analysis. All right, chapter 30. Westminster Bridge fell. Any thoughts?
All right, I have lots of thoughts on this chapter.
I mean,
Yeah, I got this.
it was just a.
It's a weird.
I looked it up online. Their Westminster Bridge was replaced sort of in this time frame, so I guess it was just more of the historical fiction.
It's just like a weird stylistic choice to like randomly include like the news
Yeah.
The
clipping
newspaper.
when like we've been talking in normal the whole time. But I guess it was short, so I didn't really care. But I was kind of like,
I
okay.
think it was to Tyler's, like what Tyler just said. Like it was just to try to be cool and like match up with history. I feel like she tried to do that a
I
lot
think
with the
I think that
footnotes.
RF Kwong thinks she's genius sometimes with these like odd transitions, like using different characters as interludes and then Victoire as an epilogue and then this newspaper clipping. I think she just gets too smart for herself sometimes and tries to do too much is what it is.
She's getting fancy with it.
Yeah, this is the entire chapter.
Like playing cowboy.
Trying to make one-handed grabs, and she could easily just use two hands.
Exactly.
Sometimes you're not big enough for two hands. All right, chapter 31. With the fall.
Is somebody under your desk right now?
It's just too easy. It's right out. The jokes are right there. All right, chapter 31. With the fall, Oxford turned into a war zone. A shooter came downstairs, informing the group that the soldiers had killed a little girl. Selfishly, Robin viewed this as an opportunity. More people would turn to their cause. In fact, he thought to himself that he wanted more of it. Despite this, Abel approached him. They couldn't continue like this. The protesters would soon break. The violence was escalating, and soon they would be trampled. With that, he offered a lifeline, an escape for those within the tower. Before Robin could break the news to the rest of the group, Letty approached the tower. Bum, bum, bum.
I wish we still had meme competition coming up because you just gave me a great meme. Yeah, have you seen the Herbert the Pervert clip where he's chasing Chris? He's like, "Come back here! I just want to smell your hat." And his hat flies off, and he grabs it, and he smells it. And he goes, "Now I want more." That's Robin in this situation.
Wow. Okay.
I've never seen.
Calling either. Is that from Family Guy?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's one of my favorite clips of all time.
Chris, you smell good.
Oh, that was scary. That's loud in my headphones.
Hey, Chris, why don't you come back here?
Say now I want more.
Chris, I just want some more.
Why is that so good?
Because it's Tyler the Pervert.
All right. Chapter 32. Victoire and Robin greeted her at the door. She looked terrible, beaten down by the recent events. Robin felt an instinct to hug her, but immediately resented the fact that he felt that way. Letty went into a rehearsed statement claiming she couldn't betray her country, continuing that the English army had plans to storm the tower at dawn. They needed to surrender. Letty says the rich politicians don't care what happens to the tower, they'll survive nonetheless. What they couldn't sacrifice was the English pride. The trio continued to argue, but it became clear there was no resolution. Letty had no understanding of their cause or their limits. However, they did agree to warn the others and give them a chance. With that, Letty began to leave. Robin chased after her, asking why shoot his lover Rami. She said it was an accident. He should know uh, how how that felt. Oh, yeah, she said it was an accident. He should know how that felt. Damn. After that, she was gone. Victoire turned towards Robin, asking what the path forward was. Robin had made his decision he had known since the beginning. He had to take down the tower entirely, and he knew exactly how to do it. Playfair had shown them on their very first day. Victoire confronted him, asking him how long he knew. He said this was always the path. He couldn't carry on like this. His guilt was too great. Victoire begged him to keep carrying on, to extend the group's legacy, to carry on. The pair was now crying in each other's arms. Victoire exclaimed that she wanted to live. She wanted a future. Robin held her tight and whispered, "Be selfish, be brave." So I guess this is where they officially part ways on their belief systems. Robin ultimately believes that he has to be a martyr for the cause, and this is the thing that will bring down England, or at least temporarily. And Victoire feels like there's still life worth fighting for, and their cause is greater by continuing on. Who's right?
Yeah,
Robin
thinks
overplayed his hand, I think. Their best piece of wagering was the London Bridge falling, and once that kind of happened, everyone was like, "Well, it's kind of old anyways," and the army was like, "Well, we're still gonna like." He had no more bargaining power.
Yeah.
in a way, I think Letty was right. Like the higher powers, like it wasn't going to affect them. Who was running the country? Like it'd affect middle class and even like some of the upper class, but then like the real like higher powers wouldn't get affected by the tower falling, so they don't care. Although it may end their empire, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think there was ever a chance of them really winning necessarily.
Kind of morbid, but true.
Well, we don't know the after effects of the tower, I guess, imploding.
We'll need a sequel.
I don't really know how to say what I'm about to say.
Me most of my life.
One thing that I like about RF Kwang's like character development is she always connects character decisions back to their experiences. Like she makes everybody a product of how they were raised and their experiences up until the point they get to in the story, which I think is kind of true to real life. And I also think in a way this is what like causes each Victoire and Robin to choose their respective paths. Victoire like I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the epilogue, but like she had a mother who um kind of changed hands and ownership a couple of times, and each time she kind of dropped her past and assumed the current circumstance that she found herself in, and I think that's what Victoire does as well. And the reason I really didn't know how to deliver this is I don't know what about Robin's experience makes him this way. Maybe it's Griffin. Maybe there's some underlying way in the way that both him and Griffin were raised that makes them revert to this form of violence. It makes them believe that that's the way to kind of disrupt the system that they are in. I don't. I'm trying to think of what exactly that is.
Just for Rob,
Maybe it was Professor Lovell's beatings.
he feels like he's tried to do everything the right way, or do it in the way that promotes peace, or change things from the inside, but ultimately he's been neglected every time he's tried to make changes from the inside. So he ultimately feels in the end that the only way to make an actual change is to destroy the inside itself.
There. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I think there's even like some lineage between Professor Lovell, Griffin, and Robin. They just that temperament, that temper. Trying to find the word.
Temper.
They
Temperament.
temperament for like temperament for war, like Professor Lovell's plans for war. Griffin's obviously was very violent, and I think it kind of like snapped on Robin too. There's like this lineage almost of violence almost in the family, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
with Professor Lovell, he was always like he wanted to be kind of right and in control. And I feel like this was Robin's way of feeling right and in control. Like if he could control like exploding the tower and going down with it and like being a hero. I also think he just had so much weighing on him, especially at this point in the book that he was as sad as it is, like he was already suicidal right after he took the drugs. And then like as it goes on, he just losing all his family, friends. I think he's just kind of at a tipping point. And he sees this as like as we saw throughout the story, like he was always looking for an easy way out to like put himself in harm's way to save other people. So
Yeah. Um. Sorry, I just launched something across the room. Um. Last chapter. The pair took the discussion to the group. They now discussed who was going to carry the boats and who was going to carry on. Professor Kraft volunteered to stay with Robin. Ibrahim and Juliana held each other's hands and decided to stay. In addition, Megana would round up the group of five staying. Uh, Victoire and Yusuf would be leaving. Robin approached Abel and handed them their written account. Abel didn't question much, just told him, God be with you. Everyone in the tower began preparing the destructive bars. Soon, Abel and his men would take down the barricades. With that, they had to work in haste. Soon enough, they were done. Victoire and Robin had their last moment together, crying in each other's arms. With the last wave, she was gone. Robin turned his mind towards death. Could he accept it? Would he run from it? One thing was certain, he was terrified. He pondered if death was a sudden stop, then nothingness, or if death was a rolling green hills filled with endless conversations with Rami. Whatever it was, there was pain in the uncertainty. The remaining group worked to comfort each other. Soon enough, the army made its move across the green. In the final moments, Robin thought of all the good moments, the scones from Mrs. Smith, laughing with his friends, food and drinks until the wee hours, and finally Rami's smile. Then 6 o'clock hit. He and the remaining group set off the chain that would topple the tower. Robin found peace in the final moments, thinking back to the day on the hill with Rami, the comfort he felt. Soon after, the tower was collapsing, and Robin closed his eyes. While shut, he imagined his mother, and she said his name. Bum, bum. Kevin, do you want to? I know you wanted to read this
I'm
enthralling paragraph about Rami.
curious.
yeah. Also, I just want to give myself my flowers here in my chapter summary about when Professor Playfair showed him this match pair. I said, I wonder if Robin will use this later in the book.
Nice
Good
job.
catch by
Remember
me.
that.
Nice job,
Yeah,
Kevin.
thanks, guys.
RF hinted at there's a couple lines in the beginning of the book. I don't forget what they're all about, but they talk about being a martyr. It's kind of what uh, Robin himself ends up being. So that was another good foreshadowing. I will say that she did pay off at the end. So I have to give her.
Maybe she's not so bad at the
I guess. I
foreshadowing.
guess. I guess when you do it 100 times in the book, you're bound. You're
Yeah,
bound.
at once.
Hey,
Uh,
30 out of 100 gets you in the Hall of Fame in baseball. So maybe.
this
Might
excerpt
be there.
is right when the tower he starts translating. He keeps saying fan yi, and it's all the stuff starts shooting off like fireworks. And as it's like right between the time that he's about to die, it like breaks off into a separate paragraph. It says, he went back to his first morning in Oxford, climbing a sunny hill with Rami, picnic basket in hand, elderflower cordial, warm brioche, sharp cheese, a chocolate tart for dessert. The air that day smelled like a promise. All of Oxford shone like an illumination, and he was falling in love. It's so odd, Robin said. Back then, they'd already passed the point of honesty. They spoke to one another unfiltered, unafraid of the consequences. It's like I've known you forever. Me too, Rami said. And that makes no sense, said Robin, drunk already, though there was no alcohol in the cordial, because I've known you for less than a day. And yet, I think, said Rami, it's because when I speak, you listen. Because you're fascinating, said Robin. Because you're a good translator. Rami leaned back on his elbows. That's just what translation is, I think. That's all speaking is. Listening to the other and trying to see past your own biases to glimpse what they're trying to say. Showing yourself to the world and hoping someone else understands.
And you thought he was gonna hook up with Victoire?
I don't know. Also,
Time for some action.
He doesn't care which way he's taken.
I got
maybe it's such-
I got blue balled by Kevin's request for ice rink or whatever it is called. I wanted to do some
Icebreaker?
ice rink.
Respect on it.
Also, if you could bottle up like love in its most cliche form, that is what RF Kuang just did in that passage, just about like speaking and listening, and then like you're fascinating. Well, because you're a good translator. Like, shut up.
This is why
I just love
this book club cannot read a romance book. We would collapse.
I love our analysis. That ain't be good. It was crazy. That was like, why did she put that in the ending, like right when he's about to just explode?
I
Like just to
think
confirm?
to go off your point,
I'm
like
looking. I'm looking it up.
I think when you're going through death, like you often, I think I've heard this multiple times, but you often think about like the people you love the most. And I don't know if that has, I'm just making that up or something that I actually remember
Yeah.
hearing. For some reason, like I think she brings it up there because, like we said, I think he was truly in love with, like, at least we know Rami was his best friend. So like he was picturing his favorite person on earth, I guess, before he dies. I don't know. That'd be my guess.
Can't imagine another day on Earth without Rami. Romantic.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. He was after he saw Rami die, he's like, I can't go on.
I mean,
Another
I
day.
guess everything did speed up after that. So I guess his decision making got like a lot more
All right, we're at the
crazy.
epilogue. Victoire Descraves. We'll learn all about her. Victoire was always a survivor. It was in her blood as a Haitian. Her ancestors had liberated themselves from freedom. However, she had grown up in France due to her mother. Her mother had taken her there to work on an estate where they endured a new form of slavery. Soon enough, her mother was dead, and Victoire was now forced into being a maid. Despite this pain, she was led to believe it was still better than desolate Haiti, and she was thankful for that. However, in her brilliance, she soon discovered the truth and an opportunity to escape Oxford. With that, she made a deal with her captors. She was accepted to the university. There, she met Anthony Ribbon and the Hermes Society. She then embraced her heritage. Now she carried on towards America. It offered the quickest chance at escape. There, she hoped to continue on the legacy of Hermes. She thought of her friends, Rami and Robin, who died too soon, and Letty, who she knew would hunt her down, as she is living proof that Letty's world convictions were wrong, and she would never be able to accept that fact. Soon the guilt would hit, but for now she ran. Robin took the easy way out. Death was seductive, uh, but Victoire resists. The struggle would take a new shape, and Victoire didn't have the answers, but she would persist.
I think RF Quang got really, I don't want to say really, but she was probably a little horny at the end of this book. Put her on the bonk list because we end the last few paragraphs. I'll read these aloud too, because I mean, for her to do this in the last two chapters back to back is Mande mwen yon tiku anko madia u. She told Anthony once when he first asked her what she thought of Hermes, if she thought they might succeed. He tried his best to parse Creole with what he knew of French, then he'd given up. What's that mean? I don't know, said Victoire. At least we say it when we don't know the answer or don't care to share the answer. And what's it literally mean? She'd wink at him, ask me a little later, and I'll tell you. And that's how we end the book.
I think you're overreading that.
I don't know.
Yeah. Also, I didn't understand that ending.
I didn't understand it either. I thought
Can we get an actual? We should get an actual translation on what that means.
I think it literally means what she said. When I looked it up, it was like when you don't know the answer, that's what you say. Like that's what it actually translates to.
I don't know. I felt like that ending because wasn't there sexual tension between Victoire and Anthony, like kind of throughout.
I feel like it was also hinted at.
Well, she was like her. The way I understood it was he was her mentor because he was from Haiti as well. I think. Am I right? I think he was from Haiti, and
You
he was the one that recruited her into Hermes.
I don't know where he's from. He was black. No, I think he was French, but he was also black.
Okay, maybe.
So they related on that level. Um, I don't want to give too many thoughts because I want to save it for the uh score rating. But
Do you think there's going to be a sequel?
I tried to look that up online if people thought there was going to be a sequel or not. It seems like the ending was kind of setting up. I think she left it open so she could come back to it. I don't know if it wasn't like
Spin off.
yeah, it
By
wouldn't,
the two characters that she's going to meet off in America.
yeah. I guess there's room for their additional story to be written about Victoire, but I don't know. And Letty chasing her down. Would you be interested in reading that?
I'd have to see how it's presented. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Any other? Would you guys be interested in Victoire in America getting chased down by Letty? The other two.
No.
I mean, I agree with Jared. Like if it obviously I'm not a creative minded person, so I don't know how you come up with a story like this in general.
Yeah,
So I'm sure there's a cool way you could twist it, but my brain doesn't expand. So
maybe.
Well, if you remember
He's- well,
where they're kind of leading off in the time period, the Civil War is approaching in America. So
good point, Tyler.
Victoire could she could basically run the underground uh railroad is basically what we're getting to.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of never actually learning Robin's real name?
I think the way I took that, I think when it was talking about his mother saying his name at the end, that was kind of their way.
Like him going back to his roots, I
Yeah.
think, like him
That was the first time he acknowledged.
him becoming his own person
Yeah.
type thing. The way I interpreted it, like he was able to.
Yeah, I don't think
Become a fighter.
I don't think you really had to know what his real name was. It's just that he had heard
Yeah,
it. He heard it again.
you kind of slam dunked on me. I was gonna say at the end, I was gonna say what you said. I thought that was cool, but then you answered it. I thought you weren't gonna have the answer, so
Oh, sorry.
nice.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
You should just say it next time instead of trying to curtail.
I could see this becoming a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it'd be
I thought
honestly,
about
like,
that.
I think it would be better as a show.
I could see that too, but I think, knowing Hollywood, they would probably try it as a movie, it'd probably bomb, and then be like, "Oh, we should probably do this as a show because
Yeah.
we can get into more detail."
I could see it being some Netflix original. Netflix loves shit like this.
Yeah.
Anything to stick it to the white man.
Really, Christian,
I was-
let your chest go, huh? My God.
did we ever find out what was in the letter that Griffin write Robin?
Robin never read it.
Yeah.
Victoire read it.
Victoire, yeah.
I was kind of hoping
Yeah,
he was gonna read that at the end, like in the last,
Yeah.
but
And then it said, whatever you do, don't end up like me.
yeah,
Don't turn to violence.
Which makes it funny. Of course. But all right, I feel like it's a good point. We should probably let's give our overall thoughts. I think the best person to start is the person that nominated the book. I think that's the easiest place to start. So, Kevin,
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. Well, I was trying to pull up what I've rated other books. So I'm just gonna start talking, and then at the end, I'm probably gonna say a few times and rate.
I mean, I can go if you really need it.
No, I want this now.
Okay.
I'm determined now. Little delirious. Thumb issues. IR. Don't anything I say right now can't be held against me. I'm a firm believer that I wanted to go first actually because I'm a firm believer that the three of you, specifically one of the three of you that may or may not be wearing burgundy, is going to give this like a critic fantasy book, like in-depth analysis about all these characters development and foreshadowing stuff, and you're gonna give this book a hard time. I don't want to give this book a hard time. I enjoyed this is the longest one we've read, correct? Yeah. Longest book we've
Yeah.
read. I don't count The Great Game as a book, but it was longer than that. I I actually enjoyed reading this book. I thought it was quite a page turner. I think if you split this book up into like a first 3 quarters and then a last quarter, I enjoyed the first 3 quarters a lot. I thought it was kind of redundant with the continuous foreshadowing in the beginning and then being answered in the next chapter, like Tyler's going to tell us about soon. But I also thought that there were other pieces of foreshadowing. There were a lot of like surface level symbolism and foreshadowing things going on, but then I thought there were a lot of deeper ones too. I thought the character development was pretty good. I don't know much about fantasy fiction character development, and I thought I could find some good development from the beginning of the story to the end, and just to see how much Robin changed throughout his story and what he overcomes, and then ultimately the ending. I thought that was super interesting. And then all four of the characters, I thought they all had their own place. It was kind of obvious what was going to happen with Letty towards the end of the book, but with that even being obvious, I still thought it was like a good little plot twist. Not really plot twist, I guess, but a good plot. Um, I don't really got much else on it. I thought it was a good read. I don't know. Have we read any other fantasy books or any other like?
This is our third fiction book. I guess if you count The Road as fantasy, I guess. It's not really fantasy, but science fiction.
It's fiction, yeah. Better, definitely better than The Road. Uh, light years better than And Then There Were None. Sorry, And Then There Were None. My highest rated book is Killers of the Flower Moon at an 8.9. I don't think I can go above that unless I can at a 10. No, I'm kidding. I'm at a crossroads here because this is so different than Killers of the Flower Moon. Okay, I'm gonna give it an 8.8. As you can tell, there was no prep
Oh
whatsoever.
my
That was
god.
I
I
en-
did not expect that score.
I enjoyed this like a lot, to be honest. Even the
Okay.
ending when it was slow, like when they were just sitting in the tower and it was slow, I still like I actually wanted I first when I got the book, I was like, damn, this is a lot of pages and this is some small font. This is gonna take a while. And then I actually was like, this is the first time I've really been way ahead of reading and enjoyed writing the summaries. Maybe that's just because of the genre. So this could change too, because this is probably one of my first experiences reading an actual fantasy book and not like first grade Harry Potter's and the Sorcerer's Stone. But yeah.
Do you like this better than Harry Potter?
Um, I mean it depends what I'm looking for. I feel like this is a more of a this is also tough because this is condensed into one book, whereas Harry Potter was over a long period of time over multiple books. I guess the Harry Potter storyline is better, but a true villain and true protagonist, but I did enjoy and I enjoyed all the different conflicts in this book too, like Robin versus himself, uh the students versus like the Empire, um even like the conflicts within the friend group, like the three outcasts, minorities versus Letty. There were just a bunch of different uh conflicts, I guess, going on throughout the book. And looking back on it, like when we started it, this is just not that was not where I thought the book was going to end up. And I thought it honestly was a really fun read for me. So
Good review.
I can go next.
All right.
Um Okay. I don't really want to hit on like the minute details because I feel like we've kind of beaten them to a pulp in our 3 meetings, including like the foreshadowing and the basic discussions on colonialism and racism and some of the in your face things that RF Kuang does. Um, I did enjoy this book. I think we talked about it in this meeting a little bit, but the pacing was kind of wild. Like definitely the first meeting, super slow. Between the first and second meeting, I really enjoyed the plot and how it moved and some of the things that were introduced. And I felt like in that period I was the most engaged with the book. And then this last meeting, better than the first part, um, in the way that I liked RF Kwang's creativity with the ending. Um, and although kind of weird why Robin made this choice, it was kind of interesting to see him grasp onto like um his brother's choice in turning to violence. So I see Kevin just changed his score to an 8-7. Um
Good.
so
Boys.
Nothing to do with
pacing
Christian.
was pacing was weird, but I don't know. It's whatever. I was engaged throughout. I think my score is going to be a product of like maybe fiction is just more my thing. It's also I feel like easier to enjoy fiction a little bit more. Sometimes nonfiction can be a little bit slow and you're more so subject to the topic that you're presented. If it's something that piques your interest, then you're going to give it a better score. If it's something that you don't care about at all, then you're probably gonna immediately write it off like I did with The Great Game and 1453. So fiction is a little bit more flexible in that regard. Um, with that being said, I think I have to give Babel a 7-2. I think is my score. That would put it like above Prisoners of the Castle. What else did I kind of enjoy? Rocket Man. Like it puts it above some of the nonfiction books that I was on the fence with. And like I said, it's like Portnoy's style of pizza sort of deal. I think more so just my style of book.
Sick. I'll go next. I think a lot of my thoughts and my score will sort of be close to Christian's. So
Get ready.
I do come at this from a different perspective because I do ultimately I have read the most of the fantasy genre of this group, so it is my favorite genre. So um it is. So I think a lot of the main hits I had a tough time in the first 150 200 pages of this book. It felt like we were accomplishing the same thing over and over again where we got the same beating your head over the thing. I think if we were to do the bar like Kevin set up, the first 40% of the book for me, I was very concerned about what I would think of it. And maybe I was audibly complaining about it for sure. 50 to 90%, as Christian was saying, was very good. Like, it was very good storytelling. That's when the story started kicking up and characters started actually going through development. And that's when the book really excelled. And I thought it was actually very interesting. And I thought it was, if you were to take that section, it was a very good book. And then, like as Christian said, the last 10% is like, I it's not that I don't like the resolutions that happened. The pacing was just weird at the end. The pacing was really bad at the start, and I think at the end it was really weird. It just was fluctuating a lot. So that's my major complaints. We've hit on, I think, I would say the fantasy aspect of this book, the magic system, it wasn't very interesting at all. There wasn't really much unique about it, but I liked some of the historical fiction. I think she worked in some cool stuff. She was overbearing with it sometimes, and especially with some of the footnotes. But there's some cool things she worked in there that, if you sort of know the events of the time period, were sort of interesting, and I really enjoyed those aspects when they were included. And definitely sent me googling a couple of times just to like Westminster Bridge, for example. So very interesting. I'm right I'm right with Christian. I think it's right for me. The score I put in my head was a 7-3. So, uh, I just want to mirror a lot of things that he said.
All right, I think that leaves me. And I think my score kind of reflects a middle ground between both sides thus far. I guess starting off with the pros and cons, I don't want to be a dead horse. Start with the pros. I really thought the world itself was cool. I think it was a creative timing area, and you don't see a lot of historical fiction. At least I haven't read a lot where in this kind of British age of colonialism and imperialism, kind of we touched on how it kind of connects with the Great Game. I'm very interested in kind of those geopolitics and that subject. So at the beginning, it was kind of an easy thing to understand and pick up a little bit from my perspective. But on that sentiment, I didn't really enjoy the beginning. Similar to Tyler, it was really slow, and it was also very in your face. It's not a bad thing to be that, but it just kind of didn't hit the right way with me, maybe as a reader, which is to each is their own. Other things I liked, like I said, the world development I thought was cool, tying some of the historical events. I thought it was pretty creative. I could have definitely not have come up with a story like this in my brain. So props to Aaron for coming up with a creative story like this. I thought it was also cool that she wasn't afraid to kill characters. See, I've read a decent amount of fiction where some people are afraid to kill off the characters, and that's kind of was afraid of this kind of coming to the end. In that aspect, she wasn't afraid, and pretty much everyone died besides Victoire. So I thought that was like kept me on my toes a little bit, and I kind of was a little bit thrown with some of the curveballs at the end. So I kind of enjoyed that. Some of the things that would limit my score here, I think the pacing, like Christian and Tyler touched on, was a little bit strange, especially in the beginning of the ending. I would didn't bother me as much as maybe Tyler did, but it definitely hindered my score to some extent. And like I said, some of the foreshadowing didn't hit all the time, but there were some aspects that were able to recall in some of the deeper tones, which I didn't necessarily enjoy, but some of them did hit. So I will give her credit there. So yeah, my score was didn't really know what to score this. Tend to be more of a nonfiction person, but I did really enjoy this, and I easily think this was the best fiction book we've read thus far.
Low bar.
So low bar, but I gave it an 8, 8 flat. I think it kind of compares with some of the books we've read thus far, but I enjoyed it and kept me interested throughout. So
Something I also forgot to mention in my spiel because I was not prepared at all was the actual concept of this book was I thought it was pretty well thought out. Like the concept of translators back in that time during like empires and colonialism, like that was a way to gain power. And that's like what we saw throughout the book was using people that could speak multiple languages in order to help with uh communication between the places that you were trying to colonize. And I thought it was a pretty cool concept. Something I would not have thought of prior to this because with technology now we just type stuff into Google and then it just translates and that's that.
yeah, I think all of our scores we ended at a 7.83. So I think it's obviously top rated of 2024. Sure, things would change, but yeah, I think that's a good average to what kind of what the group came to. So would definitely recommend. I think we can all say would definitely worth a read if you're interested in the time period. Kind of a different take on fantasy. Anyone else have any overarching?
Maybe read it if you're a fantasy noob. If you're a fantasy hardo like Brazel, maybe it's not for you.
I don't even know like if you have to be like in into fantasy or not or new to like I don't know if you could really this book is a weird it's weird to call this book fantasy.
I, s-
Yeah.
I would call this historical fiction because she does such a good job of,
Yeah.
I think, incorporating the fantasy aspects of it that I think it almost like I'm like, oh yeah, this happened in 1820s Britain. So like I would almost consider it historical fiction over more than fantasy. But
Yeah, I guess when you're reading fantasy, you kind of expect it to take you out of the world you're living in. This book kind of
Yeah.
does the opposite, where it puts it puts some magic systems into the world you already know about. So
It was a unique fantasy book, I guess.
well, fourth place,
Genreless.
fourth place.
It ended up at a much higher score than I expected, based on at least
My
the
bad.
first meeting. I thought this book was not going to be great.
I didn't think so either. After the first meeting, I think we were a little harsh on it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we were.
Tyler's having a seizure over
No,
there.
I was gonna give it like a 5 after the first meeting.
So I think we had our criticisms, which were fair, but I also think we were a little harsh compared to some of the other books we've read, and just kind of like going through it all. But we ended up at our score, and I think it's a good representation of the group as a whole. So
You know how like this is such a bad illusion. Sorry to any women in my life.
Oh
I
no.
don't mean to compare our
Um,
experience to your experience, but like how women's cycles like blend together as they spend more time together. You know how that's a thing. Like
oh,
sometimes I feel like we become subject to each other's opinions and our scores kind of merge together at the end. And that was a terrible metaphor to use, but it was the
Nah,
only
it
thing
made
I could
sense.
think of. Okay.
This is like our most volatile book,
Yeah,
I feel like.
this was gonna have one of the higher variances. When we do most underrated book of the year, it'll probably make it in. Well, probably not because of its high score, but uh,
My bad.
due to high variance, it could find its way in there.
yeah, this and endurance, I would say probably this is more than endurance even. But yeah,
Yeah, so I'll get through the formula in there really quick, but
And two higher rated books because of the number of readers. That's why we need the audience to engage a little bit more.
Yeah,
We need
please.
we need
some
more
more
audience.
listeners because having four people scoring, usually there's one score that can swing the book one way or the other.
That's true.
Sorry, the Last Rhinos.
I,
Sorry.
if you look at the last Rhinos doesn't have that much variance, to be honest.
I guess it doesn't.
Not too much.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
It's a great game, I would say. It would maybe this could be swung
Yeah,
either way.
the Great Game probably has the highest variance by far.
Ooh,
Between two distinct parties.
But I think that's accurate to the book. It's a very particular interest.
niche.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the score makes sense given like what it is.
All right.
Yeah.
And with that, work for him in Babel. Had a family on the side that he never saw.
That's
Beat his sons.
that's my thing about Lovell that makes him so evil is that he was literally just reproducing to benefit Oxford.
Yeah. It's pretty.
And
he's really
then abused his offspring.
Yeah. And then wondered why
Yeah, when
they resented him.
When you guys put it like this, maybe I should have picked Lovell.
I think Letty's a good pick
Yeah,
too, because I mean Letty screwed him.
I think those are the two main ones that the story focuses on.
Yeah, that's what I had. Those were the two. I'm curious what Kevin's other one was.
I can't wait.
And with that, Jared's got the last pick of the first round.
The wraparound.
This didn't play off. This didn't play into my spot. I don't really know what I should do here, but I think I'm gonna take the first Hermes operative, and I'm gonna take the tower. I think it's the one that comes to mind when I think of like the book as a whole.
Wait, the
Whoa,
tower.
the tower.
What?
I'm lost.
Hermes operative, like them blowing up the tower, right?
No, you're thinking operation. We're talking about
No.
person.
Yeah,
Like a person. It's Hermes member.
Done.
I mean,
This
that was.
can we throw that in the pages?
I just read it.
Motor moron. Get
That's
him on there.
Operation. Okay, it's operative.
If the pick was Operation, that was the clear 1-1.
worst
I guess I didn't think we'd have two character sections.
snake draft picks. I'm writing it down right now.
Damn.
I just purely made a reading mistake. I don't know if it was.
Let me have this, okay? I've been the one clown.
And also your hand was off the chess piece, so that counts.
Well, this stinks now. So what am I gonna do? I'll go best match pair. I'll do the invisible one.
Damn it.
Wuxing.
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 Whooshing.
Whooshing. That's my favorite one by far, just because it sounds cool.
Whooshing.
I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but besides Bow, I mean, it was just the most important ones to their operations. They used it on a bunch of Hermes missions. Yeah, I think it was. I thought it was cool.
Whooshing.
It's introduced that way. I think it has a lot of meaning in the story.
Good pick.
So that's that. Let's go. Worst part about being a university student. I'm gonna go for thinking at just university. I'm gonna say the food, living in the dorms, and the food that they give you. I'm
University food.
going back
Hey,
to
you only
my
get one.
going back to my freshman year. My freshman year dorm had awful food. Yeah, so that's my pick.
I had that written down.
I also had that written down.
I may have taken it too early, but considering I read one of the categories completely wrong, I was kind of thrown off my draft.
Yeah, it's tough spot to be in. With that, I will go next. I am going to draft. I feel like I don't want to take a match pair here, but I have to because my other categories are just so deep. I'm gonna take Fan Yi, which is the translate one that they end up. That's the forbidden
That's a good pick.
that they end
I was
up
gonna say
using
that.
to destroy the
Yeah.
tower.
I had that one written
Good
down.
pick.
Now I've been rendered useless now.
Well, you can save that
It
for
was-
the last pick. No, that's your benefit.
It was
Okay.
it was a good piece of foreshadowing in the book used at the beginning. Ultimately, what brings down Babel in the end. Yeah, powerful match pair.
Kevin, you got a good first two rounds in.
Translate.
You know, some
Yeah.
would argue that it's better than Brazel's bow because it brought down the tower. They didn't use bow to bring down the tower.
Not as cool though.
I think the Fanyi one is the best. Like something that
Self
having a system that is built and having something that can completely destroy the system makes me think of the Germans in World War II. They were unstoppable besides themselves.
Mm.
All right, with that, Christian, you're up.
Okay. I think I have to take. Well, I can save match pair now. Worst parts of being a university student, I can just come up with that on the spot. There's unlimited options. So I have to take Hermes Operative. I think the clear number one is the OG Griffin. Robin, the main character's brother. His master plan is what ended up leading to success in the end. Nobody could really see the genius behind his evil. And I think he was kind of maybe overlooked as a character until you really started to understand his devices and what he stood for. And he's really what he was a glue guy. He was the glue behind Hermes at Oxford.
Any concern about his mindset?
No,
No,
I don't think so. I think the concerns were addressed in the book, and I think really it just took them seeing past the violence. I think the violence was ultimately necessary.
I'd
Everyone started to realize he was onto something. Anthony would never have gotten shit done.
I'd argue there were concerns why everybody wasn't like him.
Well, I'm gonna transition that to my next pick. If Griffin is the founder, the man
Again,
that actually accomplished Griffin's end goal is my Hermes Operative pick. I'm taking Robin, the main character of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, I had that as well. I think that's fair.
I think Robin, if I was to put it against the Griffin pick, Robin is the one that successfully ended the tower, and achieved their end goal as Hermes in terms of collapsing
With
the
a
British Empire, with some
with a
parentheses in
group
there.
of people.
Yes, with a certainly help, but he was the leader at that point. So, uh, you know, he has some character flaws for sure, but he is the main character of the story, and ultimately he gets the end shine.
How did Robin end up getting there to that moment?
Drugs.
Griffin.
The same thing.
Can't have Robin's story without Griffin.
I mean, yeah, it's a counter argument, but Griffin never was able to achieve the takedown of the tower. So,
Sacrificed himself. A hero.
so I think they're both good picks. I don't, like, I don't.
No, I know. I'm just trying to. You chose the main character. I'm just trying to focus.
Yeah, the problem with choosing the main character is like the whole focus is on them. It's like, yeah. There's some other good picks in that category though. Deplorable. Let's see if this is Kevin's second. I am going to take Sterling Jones.
He was on my list.
This
pick.
guy is the detective of the British translating community. He's the undisputed goat at hunting down Hermes. He blows up. He kills every character that Robin cares about at one point in the story, besides um, Victorian Victoire. So yeah, and then once he gets in the prison, he's got some methods that are unappreciable. That's the way we'll put it. He's very, very into torture. And he's very racist just from the jump. He wants these people dead. So yeah, that's my pick.
Pick.
Was that your
I
second?
don't know.
Okay,
No, I don't know. I didn't even think about him. That's better than my second.
Oh, okay.
had him on.
And another one in like the second grouping, but it's obviously gonna be.
Okay, I take worst part of being a university student here. I I don't know. Lack of money. I don't really need to explain this. You're broke as a university student. You kind of just got to skate by for 4 years. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's tough.
I don't want to.
It's
I
tough.
don't want to explain.
It's tough when you reach spring semester and you're down to 3 digits in the account, or maybe 2 digits, and it's rough sledding.
I will say at one point in school, I pulled money out of my Roth IRA. Um, to probably to purchase like DP dough or something at school, which is something you wake up the next day just absolutely hating yourself for eating.
Oh, that's funny. Good
Oh,
pick.
Good pick. No, it's gonna be tough to have a bad pick in that.
this is tough for me now because I don't have any restrictions here, and I really want. Oh, this is tough. I'm between two from my Hermes operative. There's the obvious one. That's the yin to the yang of Griffin, and then there's another one that I think is just as good, but not actually as good.
I think you're answering your own questions here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do I pick one? I like the other one. I like the one that's not as good better though. The storyline of that one. This is tough. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna choose Anthony.
Okay, Anthony Ribbon.
Yeah.
I think
I think he's a clear
It's just a clear.
draft pick in that category.
Yeah, he recruited Victoire and Rami.
yeah, I think he
He
contributed as much as Griffin. He just had a different viewpoint on ethics.
Yeah, he just didn't care about using bow. He more cared about using
Yeah.
making a manifesto and writing stuff.
Well, and also contributing to the library. I'm not trying to help you too much, but he was big into that library and writing down new translations.
Yeah.
So he was a big player for sure.
Yeah, he's a big character in the story. We didn't find out Like he wasn't part of Hermes until like the latter half
Well,
of the
he's
book.
dead.
But yeah, came back from the dead. What a beast! All right, Jared, your third round pick.
Time to finish off my draft. Let's just finish off Hermes Operative, not Operation. Um, so I'm gonna go with Victoire. She's the future. Uh, Hermes rests on her hands now because everyone in that cell, pretty much besides Professor Chuck Travardi, is basically dead, or he's in jail. I'm pretty sure. Um, so it's up to her now to kind of relay the message of what happened at Oxford to the world. As we know, there is still Hermes operatives out there around the world. It's now on her hands, and she kind of plays an immense role moving forward. Uh, she was the yin to Robin's yang, uh, so kind of balancing him out, the light and the dark. So yeah, I
I had
think
I have no thoughts on the pick necessarily, but I think she was the obvious one left. I also had honorable mention Kathy O'Neill just because she helped Robin with the test that one time, and she was also
yeah, she's there,
I
not as
thought,
impactful.
I thought, and I might be misunderstanding what had happened in the story, but I thought,
Chakravarti. Yeah,
yeah, I thought he was I wanted to choose him
he's
over
out there
Anthony,
too.
but him like showing Robin at the beginning of the story, the resonance
My
rise.
my issue with him is that
He left.
he left.
Yeah,
He gave up.
Yeah,
he
so
gave up, and we didn't know until like the last 3 chapters that he was even
That's a big
part of
trump
it.
card. But he did help show Robin.
he's an honorable mention. He
Yeah.
just didn't clear the pick territory for me. And then last for most deplorable character, I think all the three picks were about before me were all good picks, and I had him on my big board. But I'm gonna go with Mr. Bayless. Easily a super unlikable dude, from right from the get go. Even though he wasn't super involved with the whole grand scheme of the story, you could tell he was very racist and didn't care much for the natives in Canton. Uh, even though it was like what 2 chapters, you could tell. I mean, I could already come to the conclusion that I didn't like him. I think RF did a good job of kind of portraying that, being overly uh, insensitive about it, and kind of explaining who he was. Yeah, that's my pick.
I
I
think
had him on mine.
I did not have
I
him.
hated him for first too.
I had Playfair. I forgot about him, but I had Professor
Yeah,
Playfair too.
I'd play fair.
Just because like
That's
he
a good pick.
and
He
DeVries
was very
too.
hateable.
Yeah.
Bayless was very hateable. So
I guess the one we're in the fourth round, so we're more talking value at this point. But I think the one thing about Bayless, as you mentioned, is he's in for such a short period of time that like you forget about him.
his
Yeah,
character
it's,
though was
it stuck with
very
me, so
hateable.
Yeah,
that's why I remembered it. And
we're in the fourth round though, so it's like
Playfair was on my list, but he was just kind of like annoying. I don't know how to say it.
All right. That brings me to my final pick. Um, I want to say the crazy thing is you're going to school, but the worst part is school, and the worst part really is school at 8 a.m.
8 a.m. class.
8 a.m. 8 a.m. classes.
Okay.
You go out on a weeknight and you've got an 8 a.m. and you sit next to a guy that also smells like shit because he hasn't showered since his 8 a.m. or brushed his teeth, and you're just like, damn, you're in the same boat.
That's the
Actually, I didn't even take 8 a.m.s after my first
yeah.
semester.
That's the thing. You take an 8 a.m. class once and then never again because you learn your lesson. Yeah. You either have to or you learn your lesson. So I guess that's a complaint about that pick is that, it's only a problem once usually.
It's so bad you don't relive the problem.
That's true.
Still
Even
eat the food.
even without going out the night before, like waking up at 7 o'clock in college to go to class, like I could probably count on my hands, like I could count on one hand the amount of time. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I very rarely woke up before 8 a.m. in college.
Yeah,
Agreed.
All right, Chris, your best
Okay.
match pair.
Um, my pick here is going to be Explode Air, which
Good one.
Tyler, not the same as yours.
Mhm.
This is this is what Griffin used as the diversion um when Robin and Victory were in prison. And then I believe they used it as well when they first took over the tower to gain control of Babel.
It's like mermaids screaming.
Yeah, it's like
Pretty
a
useful.
Sirens.
I was between this and the healing match pair that Lovell used on Robin when he first found him, because I figured without that one there would be no story here. But I don't know. That one was barely used.
I
It
had
failed on Griffin ultimately,
I had that one.
and
I
I
wrote
think
down
Foot Air was.
the bullet ward that Playfair developed. I had the crowd dispel one that Chakravarti used. And then I had the sharpened knife one, even though they never used it, and Robin got made fun of for liking it.
Transportation one, another one.
Yeah.
That was cool.
A handcuff multiplier. Pain multiplier.
Yeah. That was
BDSM.
The chest explosion.
Oh, as
BDSM.
that one.
Oh my god, dude. I have so many options for this next pick that I'm overwhelmed. The last pick of the draft. Worst part about being a university student. I think this one's the most relatable. I'll throw this as an honorable mention. I'm not picking it, but living with randoms was my honorable mention. That one sucks, but that may not be relatable to everyone in this group. So, um,
I can relate.
yeah.
Christian's first semester.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's terrible. Like just living with a stranger in general.
Appraisal's gonna pick getting too many girls.
Yeah, taking too many girls. No. I'm gonna take terrible professors. A shitty professor will ruin your mood faster than anything.
Shout out my first round pick.
Just a shitty
the
yeah,
level.
professor level. Just a shitty professor ruins your mood. It makes you like hate a subject. It often makes people switch majors sometimes. That didn't happen to me, but
Shout out, rate my professor.
Yeah.
Saved me a couple times.
Yeah.
I had a lot of honorable mentions for this one. I had crippling depression. I had I had finals week. I had graduating. That's a terrible part. And then finally I had engineering students who don't shut about how much they have to study.
Damn.
At Kevin.
Yeah, fuck me.
Well, I mean, we all knew those engineering students were like, oh, you heard the business school? Like, oh god. Like it's just
Must be
Yeah,
nice.
it's like the memes.
Loser.
It's like the memes. The business students are like working in a coloring book.
um yeah, I guess it's time to vote. Anyone have any overlaying thoughts? That there wasn't a bad pick, there was a misunderstanding pick that we'll nominate for the pages, but
Kevin, what was your second choice besides level?
Play fair.
Okay. I would have not been like that. Would have been a weird first round pick, but
Yeah.
otherwise
Glad I
otherwise
picked
would have
Level.
been.
yeah, if you picked Playfair round one, that'd be aggressive.
Immediately taking him after you. So that
Would have changed the draft. I'll go over everything so we can prepare to vote. All right. So, me, I picked Bao the explosive match pair, Robin as my favorite Hermes avatar, Sterling Jones as the most deplorable character, and terrible professors as the worst part of being a university student. Christian picked Letty as his most deplorable character, with Griffin being his favorite Hermes operator. His worst part about being a university student was having no money, and his best match pair is the Explode Air, causing mass hysteria. Kevin picked Professor Lovell as his most deplorable character, with the Translate spell as his favorite match pair, Anthony as his favorite Hermes operator, and 8 a.m. class is the worst part of being a university student. And finally, Jared picked the invisible match pair, food being the worst part of it, being a university student. Bayless as his most deplorable character, and Victoria as his favorite Hermes operator. Sorry, it was like when the cell disappears sometimes? It was like loading. That's what was happening. Anyways, I'm gonna write down in here. We're gonna hide this with black, so we're all gonna type in here, but we'll vote down here. All
Okay.
right. So write your 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
Oh,
upgrades.
now I actually got to think.
You can see as people type.
All right.
Okay.
All right. We ready to reveal?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's count some math here. All right. So Tyler's got 6
Kevin won.
points. Kevin has 6, 9 points.
Kevin won.
Christian has 6 points.
Yeah.
And Jared has
Is
3.
points.
So
First win of the year.
big winner for Kevin. Congrats, Kevin. Any thoughts?
It was
First
tough
win of the
between
year.
Kevin and Christian for me. I think
We all voted Kevin number 1, so I guess he
the translate one was the difference for me, the match pair.
ultimately thought this. So Kevin is on the board. So it's Kevin 1, me 1, and Christian 2 for the year so far.
Did he get on the board?
Did get on board. If I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna end up at the bottom again. But
Like
Who has
always.
2?
Wink.
Kevin,
Kevin
no,
has
you have 2. You have 2.
Oh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Must be nice.
Must be nice.
Who has none?
I've been doing it so effortlessly, I couldn't tell.
All right,
Bye.
I
Jared,
prepared a
would you
list.
like to tell the viewers what we're doing next?
Yes. So since we have finished up Babel, we will now be reading our next book. And if you saw last episode, instead of presenting the winner this week, I'd already decided last week. The next book will be The Indifferent Stars Above, the harrowing saga of the Donner Party. Yeah, so going back to nonfiction, right? Nonfiction, right?
Yeah,
Going back to
Can you give
nonfiction.
a background on the Donner Party?
I will just read the back of the book to you. Even better.
Okay.
All right. In April of 1846, 21-year-old Sarah Graves, intent on a better future, set out west from Illinois with her new husband, her parents, and 8 siblings. 7 months later, after joining a party of pioneers led by George Donner, they reached the Sierra Nevada Canyon Mountains as the first heavy snows of the season closed the pass ahead of them. In early December, starving and desperate, Sarah and 14 others set out from California on snowshoes and, over the next 32 days, endured almost unfathomable hardships and horrors. In this gripping narrative, New York Times best-selling author Daniel James Brown sheds new light on one of the most legendary events in American history. Following every painful footstep of Sarah's journey with the Donner Party, Brown produces a tale of both spellbinding and richly informative. That is both richly, yeah. In terms of specifically what the Donner Party is, I am not too well versed. All I know is they helped people transition to the West. They were served as like guides to a new life in the West. That is about the information I have. So
Oregon Trail.
when I looked up this book, one of the things about it that they said about this book is it's a nonfiction book that reads like fiction. So I don't
Love
know.
that.
Yeah.
Same author that wrote The Boys in the Boat.
Yeah, which has been recommended several times. So we'll probably read that at a certain point if this is good. Probably. So
Who knows? Maybe we'll read Icebreaker. You never know.
Yeah. So
it's a survival story. We tend to like those. I mean, we tend to gravitate towards those. So
yeah. No, I'm excited to read. So next meeting you guys will be seeing will be the first episode of The Indifferent Stars Above. We're not sure if it's going to be a 2 meeting or 3 meeting book yet. So stay up to date. Watch out for on the Discord, so you guys can plan out your reading schedules. But yeah, thanks for a great episode, and we'll catch you guys.
Bye.
Peace.